So that reminds me of, because he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, like human fulfillment, from my understanding, it's multifaceted. And like I found this concept in scripture that if a person is missing any one of these three things, they are on some level feeling unfulfilled. Okay. And it's really interesting that the first thing that God tells us about God is not that he is love, even though he is love. And it's not that he is just, even though he is just. And it's not that he's righteous or omnipotent or omniscient or omnipresent, even though he is all of those things. The first thing that God tells us about God in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Which, I don't know if you've ever asked this question in your mind, but the question that I had in my mind for so long was, why would he do that? You're God, you don't need anything, right? You're just existing in your self-existence and self-sufficiency and self-satisfaction. You don't need a heaven and an earth. You don't need something to do. So why did God create the heaven and the earth? And the only conclusion I've ever been able to come to is because he is creative, and therefore it is his nature to create. So God tells us first about himself. As many facets that there are about him, the first facet he tells us about is that he's creative. Which is interesting because the first thing he tells us about us is that he made us in his image, which means he created us to create stuff and he made us to make stuff. So if I'm not living in my creative space to make the world a better place, I am going to feel unfulfilled. If you're not creating, there's something about your life that feels worthless if you're not creating. Right? You're not creating. The people in the concentration camp that you just mentioned, one of the reasons they felt so hopeless, you said their families are gone, their businesses are gone, their jobs are gone, their work is gone. They're just like they felt, because in the concentration camp, what am I going to create? Well, what's interesting when you look at how when God created everything, God created three categories in creation. He created creation, the sun, the moon, the stars, the grass, the trees, the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the creation couldn't appreciate the fact that it was created. It could not contemplate the fact that it was created. It couldn't have a conversation with its creator about the fact that it was created. It couldn't have a tree can't talk to a rock, and a rock can't talk to a tree. They just are. And so when we as human beings are not being like God and we're just existing, we are frustrated because we just are. And so the second category he created in creation was he created creatures. Creatures being dogs, cats, alligators, chimpanzees, kangaroos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They had more functionality than a tree, but the Hebrew word for an animal or a beast is the word behemah, which if you don't speak Hebrew, that doesn't really mean anything to you, but ba means in, and he means behold, and ha means what. And so the word behemah is in it is what it is. A horse is a horse is a horse, of course. What does that mean? That means a horse is not made in the image of God. Horses don't create. Like birds don't create. They make rudimentary things, but they don't create. They don't create by design, is what I mean. And so a bird or an animal can't progressively become more productive. All a horse can do is what a horse could do the first day a horse got here. A dog, same thing. A cat, a chimpanzee, a kangaroo. They can only do the thing that they could do the first day they got here. So creatures are different than creation, but they're not like man.